Hi, so as per usual, I'd like to note something before I begin the video. Yes, I said last time that I'm trying to cut down script fluff, but I tend to run my channel on random whims, so yeah, just bear with me again. Basically, I'm pretty tired, so I'm only going to cover the content that I find interesting from these 3 chapters, which means I'll probably skip over a ton of scenes or details, but hopefully some of you have started to understand what discussions I gravitate towards, because it definitely won't be as all-encompassing as usual. Anyways, let's dive into chapters 335, 336, and 337. So first off, Chani's villainous monologue was kinda weird and kinda cool at the same time, and I'm not sure if this is the translator's fault or SIU's intention. Though I'm leaning towards the latter simply because of the scene's context, which is Chani toying with and lecturing Gustang on the distinction between their ambitions. I think what I found startling was how straightforward she was in declaring that Thug and her goals generally align, because it almost felt like SIU was lifting a veil from her depiction. In The Hidden Flaw, we get a more brash, blunt character, but I assumed that was, well, because she was a kid. This monologue was, to me at least, signifying that behind the clever, manipulative, secretive, and elegant persona she built up in her past appearances, she still has a childish need for chaotic pursuits. Like we saw that a bit during her first fight with Gustang, but it was demonstrated more through her actions, which were still slightly ambiguous during that time. Here and in her conversations with her henchmen, she just says what she's planning outright. Not to mention the very small detail where her eyes glow up like some crazed psychopath while she strikes lightning into her Gustang. You know, the small stuff. What I enjoy about this development is how SIU has gradually transformed the reader's perception of Chani until he finally flipped the switch, revealing her true nature. I remember in her very first scene in the castle, she certainly came across as conniving, but there was also this regal, mature tinge to her portrayal. I didn't get the sense she was this blunt and maniacal, and I'm not saying that SIU necessarily changed her character like a certain someone, but more so that this change was a part of her antagonist arc. So in that sense, I think this characterization is actually rather brilliant. I don't have much to say about Hoaqin except that I dislike how much he's flip-flopped from exceedingly strong to unbelievably useless. I get what SIU is trying to portray, as he can't draw upon the pool of souls anymore, so his power comes in bursts until the full White Slayer form has been completed. But it's still kind of annoying. Now, what I actually wanted to mention is that I totally forgot that Evan taught Kun the Enercore technique, so I was kind of shocked when he pulled that out of nowhere to save Hoaqin. Once again, respect Evan. This dude has been putting in work this entire arc, yet people still only care about the Red Witch's feats. So Elaine is back, and she's still awesome. I gotta admit, I didn't anticipate her interfering in the last train station, even though I probably should have expected it, like she was on Gustang's ship after all, but anyways, I guess a couple of intriguing tidbits is that Bam's crew calls her Kaiser, which is really odd considering how important her real name is. The Name Hunt Station's thematic and literal narrative was centralized on the one concept of freeing individuals both physically and mentally through their reacquisition of their unjustly stolen names. To have them call her Kaiser casually comes off as bizarrely ignorant and really rude. You'd think Bam would have at least mentioned her name to his friends, and we know many of them probably heard her name from the auctioneer. So I have to wonder again if this is a translation error or SIU. Actually, can someone please clarify this for me in the comments? And the second tidbit is that Elaine's outfit embodies the blue diamond or crystal theme we've seen in Calivan's squadron. Her past outfits have had an orange diamond situated in the middle, but it never dominated her entire appearance, so I don't know, I just found it strange. I know SIU repurposes certain designs or illustrations when he's under strict deadlines, so I'm guessing that he didn't have time to create a strikingly unique set of clothes. Like, it works, don't get me wrong, it's just that it makes her look like she's in league with Calivan. and also undermines some of SAU's design choices for Caliban's commanders. I know that not all of them have this diamond theme, but enough of them do to notice a pattern. To be perfectly honest, the first thing I noticed when I saw Elaine wasn't that it was just Elaine, it was the fact that she had the diamond theme going on for some reason. Like full on diamond theme, it was weird. Moving on to chapter 336, my boy Lassu showing up to save the day was a nice payoff to their presence in this arc. I'm glad that SAU clarified early on that we wouldn't see them much, and that it felt more appropriate for them to support Bam in his most decisive moment. I think that SAU clarifying this in the blog post was a really smart move, because otherwise it would have felt really forced, and it would have felt like an underutilization of these characters that we really have come to love and come to want to see them develop in really strong and interesting ways. Like, it's a very go friendship type of battle shonen moment, but damn did it feel good. I think it helps that I adore the season 1 cast, so it's no wonder I was smiling throughout this entire interaction. I imagine most people probably wouldn't care about the outer and inner constructions of a warship, but I tend to always find something worth talking about, even if it's nonsense. What I mean pretty much is that I dig the hell out of Manshini's ship because of how it reflects my perception of her character at this current state. On the outside, you've got a regal dark blue colour palette, streamlined build, and fancy insignia scribed across, making it initially appear as it is, a royal warship. But the roughly carved out middle section, revealing the uglier grey cockpit, sabotages that portrayal. I'm aware this is crazy talk because I doubt SAU has thought this through so meticulously, but I feel like this contrast reflects the perverse twist in Manshini's depiction during these last 2 arcs. On the other hand, the inside structure contains the 3 crimson eyes symbol of the Sahad Empire, which kind of confirms that she is still playing both sides of the conflict and is using this to detain any potential allies who don't want to follow her destructive methods. So yeah, I'm obviously overanalyzing the symbolism inherent in these illustrations, but it's still amusing nonetheless. One last thing I'd like to go over about Manshini is her little rant about toppling the higher-ups while spilling a whole lot of blood in the process. She adds some interesting world-building information this time, mentioning the usual candidates such as the Slayers and Elders of Fug, but then goes on to note the workshop disciples who I didn't realise even needed to be dethroned, the quote-unquote new powers emerging in the tower, headed by Wulhan Sung, making it sound as if this organisation is kind of grooming regulars like Bam in the same way that Fug is. And then lastly, the countless ancient warriors who disappeared from the rankings. This is the most important one because SAU hasn't made it clear that powerful unranked characters have a place in future stories. I actually really like this because it throws a wrench into who we can expect showing up randomly and changing the dynamic of each floor. Jinsung makes it pretty evident that Manshini's beliefs about these ancient warriors are a gross underestimation of how influential they will be, which is pretty exciting to be honest. I mean, Jinsung of all people is declaring these people to be monsters. If that doesn't scream influential, I really don't know what does. Karaka is the absolute GOAT, and it saddens me how people don't appreciate his character arc in Season 2. Like, he went from being a menacing but one-note villain plotting behind the scenes to a surprisingly quirky, rational, and mysterious semi-ally to Bam. The last train station, and chapter 337 in particular, feels like a natural midpoint to his growing respect of his younger Slayer's potential, understanding that his master's efforts to protect Bam are not in vain. So in a sense, this season has sort of incorporated a running subplot of winning over the other Slayer gods of Fug, by demonstrating what Lizlik, Jinsang, and Yuhan Sung see in this boy. Both Hoaqin and Karaka have slowly come around to the idea of working with Bam, and that's finally paid off here. Hoaqin even acknowledges that it seems like Karaka might be siding with Bam out of some minor affection, rather than just following his duties to Ginseng, and I think by doing that, SAU has allowed us to observe different sides of their characters that we usually wouldn't see as an antagonist, such as Karaka treating his minions with really great respect. I also really dig the comparison between Yuri and Karaka planning to confront Zahad, considering that it continues this sort of rivalry they've established since the Dallas Show arc. They're actually quite alike, even if Yuri is definitely more brash, open, and unfazed by overwhelming odds than Karaka is. And lastly, as I said before, Karaka is incredibly mysterious thanks to the ever-intriguing backstory with Wagner, so I was pretty glad that they're probably going to be travelling together, even if that means that the Rachel subplot with Wagner is probably going to be put on hold. So with Gustang's reintroduction into the story, I'm going to break down my impressions of his floating castle and his crew. The former isn't too interesting from an artistic standpoint, simply because the castle is exactly what I expect from a great family head, but Chani's words about it are really fascinating. She states that sometimes family heads will use enormous floating castles to conceal their identity, which doesn't make much sense when reading the words at face value. I mean, wouldn't the opposite be true? A larger ship would indicate a person of extremely high authority is riding it, because they can probably afford the expenses to run a structure like that. So concealing your identity behind something so obvious seems extra stupid, which isn't in line with Gustang's portrayal. Instead, I have some minor speculations about Chani's words. So, first option, maybe the grander sized ships in the tower belong to transportation companies or the Zahad Empire, responsible for transporting regulars or rankers across floors. Not sure about this because I feel like most rankers at least would have their own personal aircraft due to the wealth they obtain at floor 134. But second option, maybe Gustang and other family heads have personally tailored ships that regulars and rankers are aware of, so it could be that this ship is atypical of those architectural designs. Like, I'm honestly still perplexed by this comment, so feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. Knowing me, I'll probably miss something really obvious, so please do. Okay, so with the latter, Gustang's crew is a pretty diverse bunch. Like, you've got literal giants in amongst them, which hopefully confirms that these aren't all his children, because goddamn, he must be getting around if that's the case. I'm pretty sure it's not because of obvious reasons, and because apparently the specific brown colour of Gustang's hair is indicative of his heritage, which means that there are only 2 of his family members on the ship. Though that might not be quite accurate. I wonder if anybody has noticed this, but there's a black silhouette of another person sitting on a stool behind Gustang in the panel where all the members are revealed. It's a small detail, but I think it clearly looks like someone reading a book. So this is weirdly intriguing for a number of reasons, including the fact that SAU intentionally hints at their existence while not wanting to show their design along with the others. To me, that pretty much says that this character is more important than the rest, and will probably be relevant in Season 3. Anyways, with the characters that SAU highlighted, I'm personally fond of the grey and green giant with flowing hair that almost looks like he's supposed to be underwater, which I guess is appropriate for SAU's oceanic themed world. Not sure what role he'll have, but I have a feeling it might be an advisory position to Gustang, even if that might just be the wise old man tropes rubbing off on me. Lastly, I'd just like to mention that I was actually right about Evankel training Bam after this arc concluded. I mean, it was obvious, so I'm not going to pat myself on the back too much, but yeah, I thought I'd just say it. I don't have much to say about this development yet, because I don't know if SAU is going to show us snippets of their training in flashback form, or maybe we'll get like another training arc similar to Edwine's orb training in the Hidden Floor. Personally, I'd like to get a time skip and go back to training briefly, like we do with Viol in early Season 2. To be honest, I think I've had enough of lengthy training for a while now. I want more games and plotting shenanigans, so hopefully Season 3 will deliver. I might make a discussion video on the last train station arc as a whole, because we're on break till March. So be on the lookout for that in the next 3 weeks-ish. So I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time.